Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to just make a really quick video today about temporary staffing agencies. And this will be a serious conversation. It's time now for the American people, the public, to have a genuine, honest, candid conversation about the role that temporary staffing agencies play in this country. Because from what I've seen and what I see every day here in Dallas, Texas, is temporary staffing agencies are basically subverting all of the labor gains made by the labor movement. They are just basically providing businesses with the means to circumvent those gains. And people say, why do you say that? I'm going to explain why I say that. A lot of people that have never worked through a temporary staffing agency, they think that you get hired and you work 90 days and the business decides if it wants to bring you on permanent. Or they think that if somebody's off sick, if somebody's had a baby, the business needs quick help, they will call a temporary staffing agency. Well, now what the temporary staffing agencies are doing, and they've been doing this for several years, quite some time, their entire business model has changed. And what they do now is they package up their little portfolios and they send their salesmen out to these corporations, these businesses, and they say, we can remove all of these costs of doing business from you associated with labor. We can remove the cost of having to pay people holiday pay, overtime pay. We can remove the cost of having to pay sick time. We can remove the cost of having to provide medical benefits and PTO time. We can remove all those costs from you if you would just let us do your staffing for you. That's very attractive to businesses. Labor costs are a really big headache for businesses. Businesses want to keep as much money as they can. This is not about fairness. I figured that out a long time ago when I first moved to Texas. These businesses don't give a shit about fairness. They want to keep every single dime they can in their pocket. If they can railroad you, if they can shit you out of your wages, they will. So this is very attractive to the businesses. Businesses are offshoring jobs. They're sending jobs to China and India and all of these different places to get out of those expenses. Or they're getting highly skilled people coming over here on these visas, HB1 visas, I think that's what they call them, to bring them over, and they work for a third of what they would have to pay an American. So what the temporary staffing agencies have done is basically given businesses a way to bottom out the wages and to get cheap labor on a permanent basis. And, for instance, here in Dallas, Texas Instruments, most people don't know that to get hired on at Texas Instruments, they use a staffing agency for about 80% of their staff to get hired on. They will hire about 20% straight through the door, but the other 80% has to be temps. How long does Texas Instruments keep their people being temps? I have a friend who's a Nigerian guy who just went permanent. He's been a temp for 8 years. Let me say that again so that you guys can hear that. He has been a temp with Texas Instruments for 8 years. There is a company out of Fort Worth called GencoX, GencoX, a major company that contracts with Apple, Apple, the people that make the iPhones, Samsung. What they do is they repair phones, these so-called smartphones. And they use primarily temps. How long do they keep people permanent? Pretty much forever. It's been people temping out there for years. So I've seen this time and time again. Excuse me. I had to yawn. I've seen it time and time again with people, with these businesses using temps and keeping the temps on a permanent basis, not bringing them on permanent. Now, the thing with GencoX is that they have some type of a weird agreement with this company called, I think it's Express Staffing. They have an agreement basically where you cannot come on permanent unless Express also gives you permission. Why would Express give you permission when it's going to be force them to lose money? So Jinko X, when you get hired, you go through an orientation, an unpaid orientation, and they tell you in the orientation, if you want to go permanent, you have to get approval from both the actual company and the staffing agency. If either one of them says, no, you cannot go permanent, you cannot go permanent. And there's been people out there working in those jobs for years. So my thing is, we need to stop with the bullshit. Stop. I hear these white folks all the time. They put out these bullshit, phony-ass responses on the internet and say, oh, well, I was hired. I temped for a while, and I was hired on permanent. It gave me needed experience. They're such big bullshit artists. It's just not funny. What's going on now is these temp agencies are really getting over. They're exploiting people. But another way they exploit people, and that they're very predatory, is that they bottom out the wages. If this position pays 16, it's supposed to pay 16. The market says it's supposed to pay 16 for the skill set. Let's go up a little bit higher. Let's say 17. Let's say you're a person with a lot of credentials, you've got experience. What the companies will do is they'll tell the temp agency, they'll say, we need a clerk. Somebody just to type in information in the computer system. So they'll say, we want to see the resumes. Let me tell you how the companies get over. So the temp agency will try to collect the highest caliber of person they can to send their resume over to the company. So they want someone with a college degree, someone with this, someone with that. So then let's say they get these stellar resumes. These people out here desperate to work. They send these resumes over to the company. The company chooses a person that they know is skilled much higher than what the position is supposed to be skilled for. They're going to get the highest skilled person. When you go out there to work for the company is going to have you doing the job of a financial analyst, a budget analyst, operations analyst, a job that's supposed to be paying, let's say about $45,000, $50,000 a year. Because the company has looked at your resume, they've looked at your experience, they know they can train you to do that job. However, the company is going to be paying you on the level of a clerk, of a minimum skilled person. The temp agency doesn't give a shit. I'm going to be honest with you. So long as they're getting paid the dollars off your salary, they don't want to lose that contract. Temp agencies come a dime a dozen, so all the power is with the company. That happened to me before. The company lied. They told the temp agency that they needed me for one job. When I went out there and started working, they put me in my own office and had me doing something entirely different, something that was 5 or 6 skill sets above what they said they needed. And that happens a lot as well. Another way the temp agencies get over is the temp agencies, they're competing with one another. So it's dozens of them competing for one job. It's highly competitive. So they lowball. And the company's going to go with the temp agency that tells them, we can get this position filled for the lowest amount. So let me tell you what the temp agency does. The temp agency then does this tricky little dance. Let me tell you what they do. It's just, I've figured this thing out. They know. They said they've already told the company, we're gonna fill the position for the lowest amount, just rock bottom pay. So they try to snag somebody that's like quote unquote desperate. And let me tell you how they get the person. They'll lie to the person like you're gonna go on permanent. If you stay out there, this is a temp to perm job. When they know it's not a temp to perm job, they do it all the time, hoping that the person will stay and work faithfully in hopes that they'll get hired on permanent. And another thing the temp agencies do is they put it in the contracts. If you leave, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, for any reason, we're going to go in your pay, your last check, and we're going to hit you up for all of these extraneous fees that you would never have to pay on a regular job. we're going to hit you up for badge costs. And they can attach whatever fee they want to these costs. We're going to charge you $30 for the badge. We're going to charge you $50 for the physical. We're going to charge you $50 for this. We're going to charge you for that. Oh, and by the way, the state of Texas allows us to drop your salary, whatever your salary may be, your last hours down to minimum wage. And so they do two things. They lie on the front end and try to trick the person, have the person thinking they're going to go permanent. And then on the back end, they try to threaten the person into staying, even when the person finds out they're not going permanent, by saying, we're going to make your last check, we're just going to gouge you. And this is totally legal under Texas law. Another way the temp agencies get over, they don't have to provide workers' comp. And the state of Texas, I actually went to this place the other day, and they didn't want me to leave with their application. It was a temp agency, but I left with the application. I'm trying to find what I did with it. I left with it. And they were so mad, they actually met me at the door, like, give us our application. But on the actual application, I put up a picture of it, or I tried to. It said, oh, the state of Texas, we are in the state of Texas, and we're not obligated to get workers' comp, so there is no workers' comp. So basically, if you get hurt, whatever, you're just screwed. I've seen temp agencies put people in very dangerous environments. I've seen temp agencies condone wage theft. You know, I recently had this job through a staffing agency out in Garland, Texas. I worked there for like a month. Every time I would turn in my hours, the company would approve the hours and send the hours over to the staffing agency. When I would get paid, my check would always be 2 or 3 hours short. I would have to call up to the staffing agency and say, no, what's the problem with the check? Why are my checks 2 or 3 hours short? So I started going to my manager. He was a white guy at the company, saying, did you guys approve all my hours? He was like, yes, we sent all your hours over to the temp agency. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys the name of the temp agency. It was Surge Staffing, SURGE Staffing. And basically, what I believe happened is that the company would fax over the approval for the hours, and Surge Staffing would go back and cut the check for less. I mean, just outright thievery. And it's another company that does that called Untrack, ONTRACK Staffing. They nickel and dime you from the front end and the back end. I mean, they have the right, they'll take up to $100 from your check. And, it's a lot of staffing agencies that are just extremely predatory. And so basically, you have people working for years without health insurance, vacation time, PTO time, sick time, and that's another thing. They'll shove you out the job. You get sick, you have any emergency, they'll shove you out the job. And so they're completely just robbing the people of their labor gains. And the problem is they're doing this to people at the very bottom of society. They're doing this to either very young people or people who are desperate to work. And no one cares about those people. That's why you have all these people trying to get hired with the city and the state and the federal government. It's like you've hit the lottery when you get hired on with the government. I don't care how much the job is paying, because the benefits now, the benefit packages are just it's more than what the average person has. With the kind of jobs they get. So I would just suggest to people to not use temp agencies. Here's another thing. Temp agencies condone racism. I have a friend that she's a white lady. She got hired at a temp agency. She won't tell me which one, because she knows I'm really against this. She told me that when the black people come into the agency, regardless of their experience, they get only offered certain jobs at a very low wage. When white people come into the agency, or when Hispanics, they get offered a higher level of jobs. You have a lot of companies now that will call in, and she told me they do it, and say, send us a Hispanic, send us a white person. No black people. The temp agencies will condone this because they need the contract. They're trying to survive. Now, I have a college degree, and I was in this temporary staffing agency the other day. It was untracked staffing. And, I had filled out the application, and I was going through everything, and I overheard no black people work in a staffing agency. I overheard the Hispanic women. It was all Hispanic women and one white woman talking. And so it was a Hispanic woman in there looking for a job. And one of the Hispanic women said, well, do you have a high school diploma? The woman said, no. She said, how many more hours do you need to get a high school diploma? She said, I can't remember how many she said, but she said it. And then the lady behind the counter said, well, I don't have my high school diploma either. And then she doesn't have hers either. She only needs a few hours to get hers. All of these older Hispanic women, not one with a high school diploma, interviewing me, and I have a college degree. And you find that all over Dallas. And that's a whole other topic, the racism, the deep, deep racism that black people face, especially in Texas, but in southern states, all over this country, basically. How these groups handshake with one another. When I say handshake with one another, you will find Hispanics that become managers and HR people. They don't want to deal with nothing but their own people. They will hire one or two people of another race, but they want to deal with their own people. White people don't want to deal with nothing but their own people. They'll hire a few people from another race, but that's mostly who they're going to deal with, their own people. Indian people from India, they do the same thing. They want to deal with their own people. And the problem for black people is we're not in those positions enough to make a change as far as bringing each other on. So we are disproportionately vulnerable or dependent on these other groups to be fair. And this is a money chase, it's a paper chase. These other groups don't have to be fair unless the law states they have to be fair. And even then they don't. We know they don't. We have diversity laws and everything. And there are businesses in Dallas that won't even hire blacks. You have nothing but Hispanics up in there working. All the managers in the office are white. They'll hire a Hispanic HR clerk, and everybody's Hispanic. There is a company, PLS Check Cashing. It's in Dallas, the one off of Singleton and Hampton. It's right there at the intersection of Singleton and Hampton, zip code 75212. I think that's a zip code. It hires nothing but Hispanics. It's in pretty much a black neighborhood. And it won't hire any black people. And I called up there and complained because I had a friend that tried to get hired on there. I had two of them. No criminal record, college degrees, everything worked out. The woman refused to hire them. She has nothing but little Hispanics working up in there. Some of them who don't even have a high school diploma. That's what I'm saying. They handshake with one another. So I called. Her name is Maria. The HR clerk is Maria. And I said, Maria, why won't you hire black people? They all come in here with criminal records. I say, Maria, that's a lie. Because one of my friends now works at a good job, and the other one is still trying to get a good job, but they don't have a criminal record. I say, Maria, there were two people that went by there that applied. You refused to even interview them. Send them up in here. I'll talk to them. And that company still will not hire any black people. And this I'm just naming these companies, but it's on a compounded level. So that's a whole other topic. But getting back to temp agencies, we need to fight back against them. It's about time. And I've made up my mind. I'm just not going to work through anymore. I'm sorry. If a company mandates that the only way to get hired, like a lot of these companies are doing, is if you have to work 2 or 3 or 5 years through this agency and not have sick time, health insurance, And a lot of these agencies will lie and say they offer health insurance. No, they don't. They won't offer health insurance. They lie. They offer discount plans. If you go to the doctor, we'll knock $50 off your bill. Well, what the hell happens if you get hurt, you need surgery, and your bill's $200,000 or $300,000, and they're knocking $50 off? That happened to me one time too. I didn't need surgery, but I was working through a temporary staffing agency, and I so-called signed up for their so-called insurance. And I went to the doctor's office, and the nurse, I heard her on the phone talking to the insurance company, and she was making these weird faces. And I said, ma'am, what's the problem? She said, ma'am, all they'll pay is a flat fee of $60. My bill was like $600. And I got on the phone because I was thinking it was like the traditional, they pay 80-20 or whatever. No. I found out all they pay is a flat fee of $60. And if you go to the emergency room, they'll pay a flat fee of $100 toward your entire visit. So the American people, too many people look the other way while the people on the bottom are getting screwed. It's like, oh, well, I have a good job. I have this. I have that. Let them fend for themselves because I am different. What will happen if you lose that job and you hit rock bottom and you're on the same level now with these people that you turn your backs on? And that's the problem. I heard Boyce Watkins say the other day, unregulated capitalism leads to corporate enslavement. That was the deepest damn statement I had ever heard. Unregulated capitalism leads to, I would even say, disenfranchisement from the American dream on a wide scale level. Because the corporations, you got people with all the money, with everything. I mean, people that are making billions upon billions upon billions. And then you have people at the bottom barely making $10 an hour. And then the politicians are telling these companies, they're carving out exceptions for the temporary staffing agency, saying, okay, we know that these people are barely making this or that, but we're going to carve out an exception for you that you can reduce their wages to minimum wage. You can gouge their last paychecks. You can do this. You can do that. All to please these corporations. All to please them. These corporations have lobbyists. The American people need a lobbyist. All the businesses have lobbyists. Where's the lobbyists for the American people? Where are the lobbyists for the working class people? We need a lobbyist too. It's a dirty, dirty, dirty world. And, I'm sorry, but to all these temporary staffing agencies, untracked staffing, surge staffing, all of them, all of them, result staffing, you too. If you can gouge a person making $10 an hour, you're a low down motherfucker and you deserve to go right out of business. I'm sorry. If you have to nickel and dime to get these contracts to the point where you've got to come up with sophisticated schemes to legally steal the wages of people at the very bottom, you deserve to go out of business. We need to stand outside your business holding up signs and placards and let the world know what you're doing. And see, the thing is, when people try to spill the beans on these companies, they have their lawyers start to threaten. Shut up. I've been served by attorneys before. I know how it works. When you make these videos talking about businesses, the first thing these businesses do is call their attorney. Hey, blah, 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 blah. Then the attorney's calling you. Shut up. We'll do this. We'll do that. I had an attorney. I had a business. The attorney courier delivered me. They couldn't even give me my last check on time. The last check said it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks. But the minute I made a YouTube video, the very next day, it wasn't even the next day, it was the same day, they had a courier delivered letter from their attorney saying, shut up. This was here in Dallas. They're called SLAP letters, SLAPP. The intent is basically They have a lot of money. They have attorneys. They're going to threaten you to tie you up in lawsuits that they know you can't afford to have you shut up. It's called silence letters. The letters are meant to silence you. And how they do it is they file all of these court actions basically to drive you deeper into the poorhouse. It's like we're gonna crush you financially unless you shut up. And they call everything proprietary. All of their dirt that they slip into these contracts, you'd better not see a word about it. Or you're releasing proprietary information. We can sue you on that. So if you release our dirty bullshit to the public, we're going to sue you because our dirty bullshit is private. The truth is proprietary now. They've somehow made the truth proprietary. But, I wish to God the American people would wake up, because what's going to happen is so many people are going to become disenfranchised. They're going to become so damn angry. They're going to overthrow this goddamn government. They're going to eventually overthrow the government, because we're in some type of a gilded age where you have a small little select group that got damn near everything, and then everybody else don't have nothing. The Gilded Age. Look it up. Look what Gilded Age means. And that's all I have to say.